A few years ago, I found myself standing in a small living room. My wife on my right, her mother and her cousin to my left. And we all listened as a letter from our grandma was read aloud to us, vaguely suggesting that her recent disappearance was planned and that she had left us a rather large inheritance, but couldn't tell us exactly where it was or how to access it. We looked around the room. We saw a small kitchenette with some cabinets, a fridge that wouldn't open, a TV displaying some static snow, and some picture frames along the wall with name plaques underneath, many of which were missing. The front door closed, locking us inside. The clock was ticking. Now, I'm not going to spoil how we did it, but we did solve Grandma's master plan and ended up with a bounty of riches at the end of our escape room. And that is the whole point of an escape room, to take on a themed challenge presented as a series of clues to be solved in a specific order within a given time limit. Now, regardless of whether the room is themed like a speakeasy or a pirate ghost ship, when the clock starts, you jump from item to item in the room looking for hints or a key to unlock the next clue, seeing if a picture frame swivels on the wall to reveal anything behind it, or maybe there are small details like a paperweight, or maybe the wallpaper has a pattern that's pointing to something that wants you to solve. But when you first begin an escape room, it can feel overwhelming, as all you're given is the initial room that you find yourself in. You know that you're working towards a common goal of solving a series of clues in order to escape. You don't necessarily know what you're looking for or how those clues will ultimately be solved. But you don't have to solve the entire escape room at once. That happens little by little, step by step. And none of it makes any sense until it does. And gosh, does it feel good when you find a clue or unlock that next step. It's that similar kind of satisfaction as when you put in that last jigsaw puzzle piece, or when you solve a clue and fill in the answer for a crossword in the Sunday paper. But what happens when our personal and perhaps unspoken understanding of order is questioned? How do you feel when there's a puzzle piece missing? Or when you walk into your regular meeting room or classroom and someone is sitting in your seat? What do you do if someone cuts the line? Have you ever walked into a market with no grocery list? Have you ever been left frustrated by a movie or a TV show that just ends on a cliffhanger? No resolution to some of your biggest questions. I see some nods. I see we've also seen Lost. But what happens when our collective and communal expectations of order are questioned? In the wake of a tragedy, natural disasters, a global pandemic, when our expectations aren't met, when our values are tested and our sense of justice is challenged, we begin to believe that the order we once knew or hoped for as an outcome is no more. Chaos enters the equation and causes us to question whether what we initially committed to is even worth the effort. We feel like we want a sense of control over our lives, as this is how we can derive meaning from our experiences, that we can expect a level of certainty and predict what will happen based on past events, that we can cross things off of our list so we don't have to worry about them anymore, that we understand how things work, that people, including ourselves, are consistent, that the universe is reliable. The regular prayer book we use throughout the year is called a Siddur, which comes from the Hebrew word for order. It's the same root as our Passover meal, Seder. And that's because our ancestors put together a series of prayers and blessings that we are to recite in a very specific order. And this creates tradition. It helps us to familiarize ourselves with the service, to begin to learn what part of the service comes next, and to know which prayer or song follows. And even when we change up our prayer book for the high holidays, we use a machzor, which comes from the Hebrew word for cycle or return, again highlighting the importance of continuity and familiarity. We have rituals for this very reason. We assign a certain action to be enacted or a sequence of words to be spoken at a specific time to provide a framework to a given experience that we want to acknowledge as distinct, as different. A ritual can be lighting and saying the blessings over the Shabbat candles on a Friday evening, or it could be your morning routine. Our daily routines were disrupted this year as we all went into lockdown to help prevent the further spreading of the coronavirus. And the order of the world we thought we understood devolved into a state of chaos. People were stocking up on foodstuffs and toiletries since we didn't know how long we were going to be in quarantine for. Everyone was working or attending school from home, and outside just a handful of people who were already on board with the current state of technology. We all had to learn and then relearn how to use Zoom. Zoom fatigue became a reality as we all began navigating, being on devices for long stretches of time, and we're now managing our own time in very new spaces. Being in our homes for as long as we were forced us to develop new routines. Some of us used online fitness classes to find a sense of order. Others were perfecting their sourdough bread recipes. My wife and I started making tahini chocolate chunk cookies every few days, which gave us a very consistent and delicious routine. I'll give you the recipe later. Personally, I really enjoy driving. It gives me time to relax, just to be with myself, and I take advantage of that time to listen to music, but with absolutely nowhere to drive this year, I took up walking to give myself that same kind of chunk of time to listen to my tunes every day. Many have said that the word that sums up this year is pivot, to fully shift our expectations to adapt to the ever-changing cycles that became this pandemic year. And we joked last year at our virtual Passover Seders, and then at the high holidays, and then again at this year's Passover Seder, next year in person. And we're kind of there. Is this the big, full, and normal high holiday experience that we've come to know in years past? No. But that's okay. It's fairly remarkable that we can be with any of you right now, and that so many more can join us virtually. But what is a normal high holiday experience? We live our Jewish lives via a lunar calendar, so the holidays are always seemingly changing dates per the Gregorian calendar that we live out in our secular lives. And so it seems that the high holiday season doesn't really begin until we've had conversations about whether the holidays are early or late this year. And when Rosh Hashanah begins, we're thrown back into the deep end of tradition and faced with some big questions that our text of our prayer service highlights for us. Who lives and who dies? Do I hear the still small voice? Do I even connect with God as Avinu Malkeinu, a judge and a protector, a father and a king? Will I be forgiven of my past sins? Will I achieve some semblance of repentance? Every Jewish New Year, we're extended an invitation to find ourselves wherever that may be, and to do this work alongside community, whether in person, virtually, or in the global collective experience of meaning making. And over the next 10 days, the words of our various services will reveal to us that we sit between Din v'Rachamim, between God's judgment and mercy, wanting to prove ourselves worthy of being written B'Sefer Chaim, in the book of life, before it closes on Yom Kippur. These questions are heavy. And this task of proving ourselves can feel overwhelming. But we don't need to answer all of them at once. The kind of reflection that this season asks us to engage in does not merely happen because we want it to. Forgiveness, repentance don't just come about because we read some words in a prayer book. We manifest these outcomes through our actions, little by little, step by step. I'm sure we've all heard that story of the kid on the beach covered in what seems to be about 1,000 starfish. And a collective of adults see this child walking over, grabbing a starfish, one at a time, walking over to the water and throwing it in, walking over to the next one, throwing it in. And after about 20 or so starfish, one of the adults finally goes over and says, "What are you doing? There are thousands of starfish on this beach. You can't possibly think that you're making a difference." And the kid picks up one more starfish, throws it in the water, and looks at the adult and says, "I made a difference for that one." The unknown seems chaotic until we wrap our minds and hearts around how we need to organize it all. We often place a much stronger emphasis on the end goal rather than the journey. We want to beat the escape room. We want COVID to just go away. We want our personal shortcomings from this past year to be forgiven. Our sages taught, "Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ven chorin livatel mimena." It's not your responsibility to complete the work, but neither are you free to excuse yourself from it entirely. We shouldn't lose sight of these goals. We must continue to make plans, to dream big for that place over yonder, hope for change, but we must also learn to acknowledge and appreciate those small steps that help us make those larger concerns of ours a reality. That our actions matter. They make a difference. Retired U.S. Navy Admiral William McRaven advised that if you want to change the world, start off your day by making your bed. He's speaking to a domino effect that our actions have, that completing a simple task, like making your bed, can set you up for success. It gives you a small sense of pride, which can help you push you to work on your next task, and then the next. It doesn't even need to be making your bed, or a daily habit, or a new routine, but think of something that you can accomplish. Maybe it's something you're already doing that you've overlooked, not yet acknowledged as this small puzzle piece of your life. What small steps feel manageable for what you need this high holiday season? May each of us be blessed as we embark on the journey of these Yamim Noraim, these days of awe, and we'll get there, little by little, step by step. Shana Tova.